Hello, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? Hope everybody's well. Daria's typing this 1 second. Sorry about that. So, I got an email about Ukraine, and I thought you would like to see it. So, since I go to Ukraine to see Jenna sometime, or I haven't in a while, I I get these emails. I don't know. I've been to Odessa and Lviv and her city. So I get this that says the EU will increase the cost of visas in 2024. European Union plans to increase the cost of Schengen visa, which are visas if you're traveling in the European Union and not Russia, not even the Ukraine, Germany, Italy, France, but the EU countries. This initiative is expected to be a response to the rising inflation rate in the EU, European Union. Learn more about the new tariffs. The European Commission has proposed an increase in the basic fee for Schengen visas in 2024, motivated by rising inflation in the EU. If this is an initiative is adopted, the cost of a visa will increase by 12% from 80 to 90 euros. Now, when I go there, I don't have this visa. It's just if you're traveling between the countries. And for adults and from 40 to 45 for children. This was reported by the European Commission. As you know, Schengen visas are required for citizens of non-EU countries, which would be us, who do not benefit from the 90-day visa-free regime between the EU and Schengen areas. We will talk about the revision of the cost and the price increase further. So you think inflation's 3% and 2%, and that's it, and there's no inflation, and well, they're either blaming inflation for the cost increase, like they need an explanation, or inflation's a lot higher than they're saying. And we know inflation's a lot higher than they're saying. So as I show you these different costs, I ran into one yesterday, which is All right, so it was, let's see, this. So here's fast food. In let's get to 1971. So 1971, a burger at Wendy's was 55 cents. At McDonald's, 21. At White Castle, 15. But at Wendy's, 55 cents, which seems pretty high for 1971. See, here's the problem. It says if you were buying a comparable burger in August 2018, it would cost $1.90. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. So we know a single at Wendy's now, let's say, is $5. Sorry about that. So this is 1971. Your average cost for burgers 30 cents. So let's use that. Now they're like, let's call them $5. But the hard part is an apple to an apple. I believe a Wendy's for 55 cents is a single, and then a single, not the doubles, probably let's say $5. So it's went up a lot. But when you look at these, Pepsi goes from a dime to 2.50, and bread goes from a quarter to $3. And now a Wendy's, McDonald's was 21 cents. So it shows you how cheap they were. White Castle was 15, and they only go to 2018. I don't know what happened to 2024. Well, I guess we can figure that out here. McDonald's is 109, Wendy's is 75 cents, or White Castle 75, Wendy's 444. So I don't know how McDonald's is 109. I mean, it's not the same hamburger that they were talking about. But Wendy's at 444. So now let's say it's $5. And again, it just, you want to calculate inflation, and it's impossible, right? I mean, Wendy's went from 55 to $5, and I think gas went from 40 cents to 3.50. So Wendy's goes up more than gas. And you got oil and heating oil. Heating oil, or oil, the barrel oil goes from $3 to $75. So it's all over the place. How to calculate the inflation. So what they do is they take like the 20 cheapest things that don't go up, and there you go. And then so they leave out like oil, or they leave out gold, or they leave out houses that would really have gone up thousands of percent. This is the way you're made off by the government, right? Oh, 3%. Oh, can I see what your 3% is? And and then when these idiots say inflation's coming down, what are they basing it on? Oh, the prices are coming down. Well, that's got nothing to do. See, they miss. It's the printing of the paper. You printed this. That's the inflation. Somehow they want to tie it in the cost. And where in God's name do you think cost are the inflation? I mean, it makes no sense trying to look at the prices. But Pepsi goes from a dime to $2.50. Well, that's what the market will bear. There's competition versus something there isn't. Then you've got TVs and computers and cell phones, new products. So a computer was $1,000, and now I got this one for $300. A VCR, I remember, as I told you, in the 80s, I had to work at the grocery store, and I'd miss Saturday's college games, so I bought it to tape it. It cost me $1,000. I got the money betting on football. Yes, of course. Cost me $1,000, and then I had to buy tapes, and then I'd come home at night and I'd watch some of the Michigan game or some of the USC game, whatever was on that I missed while I was working from 2:30 to 11. But then those went way down to $200 for a VCR or a DVD. Now I don't even know if you can get a VCR. Or you have the DVD players. So when competition enters the marketplace, you see the price drop. That is not deflation. That's just productivity enhancements. That's really what we're going for, is productivity to lower the cost. And see, that's where there's too many different variables running around here. So yes, there's inflation. And this is where the problem is. It's printing the money. And you printed it. And there's no way you get the genie back in the bottle, as they say. You can't, what are you going to do? Burn all the money? Who is going to burn it? So it goes back to where JP Morgan, you think he's going to have all this money, he's going to burn it? It goes in his pocket. So you never burn the money, right? And so therefore, the inflation's always there. The prices are controlled by the market. So if you're looking at inflation for TVs and all of a sudden the TV goes down to $200, or you're looking for computers and all of a sudden the computer goes from 1,000 to 300 because all of a sudden all this competition came in, and so everybody's lowering their price because they're competing. What do you do? And then you got food going up, but computers and phones and VCRs all going down. And what do you do when you have VCRs that you don't have anymore? Now you just have DVD players and you buy the movies. So VCRs went to zero. What is that, deflation? I mean, you're going to have products entering and exiting the marketplace. You now have electric cars. How do you factor that in? You didn't have them before, so you can't say, oh, look at the inflation. The cars now, you got to differentiate gas cars from electric cars. And electric cars are $100,000 from Tesla. Now came down to $70,000. That deflation? No. So this is the problem you have when you're trying to measure it with the CPI and you don't use all the products. And then again, you have to differentiate the products. You have to sit there and say, this product is a new product. There's new competition. This is why you shouldn't have monopolies. When you have competition, Coke and Pepsi and and then you even get Gatorade and water in the mix. You can see Pepsi went from a dime to 250 in 50 years, right? It hasn't really gone up. It's gone up a little, but not too much. And then again, you got to remember it's because the dollar's losing value that it takes more dollars to buy it. So that's the biggest caveat we must understand. Yeah, just a second. You know how I get when Daria texts me. All right. She's eating, so it's dinner time for her. It's 8 o'clock, so she's eating and doing homework and just saying hello. Anyway, so they're trying to measure inflation with prices as they throw prices out of the thing, but you can't really do that because how do you measure due to competition a product that goes down in cost? So how do you differentiate the inflation from Coca-Cola and computers to avocados to paint to a refrigerator to an oven to a frying pan? You can't compare it. Certain things. I don't know if this is true, but I was watching this movie Burnt with Riley Cooper. What's his name? Bradley Cooper. And he comes back to cooking. He's a Michelin chef, and all of a sudden, we don't use frying pans anymore, is what he's told. Okay, so what happens to the frying pans? They go to zero because they're no longer used. How do you measure that? So it becomes, there's things that come in and things that go out of the market. And how do you measure that? So this is why you can't measure inflation with prices, because how do you figure out which prices? Then you have to figure out why they go up and down. Coke goes up, they push a price increase to $2.90, but nobody wants it. And all of a sudden they lower the price back, or they go, I was just there yesterday. Oh, buy two, get one free. All right, that lowers the price, because if you buy three, let's say it's $3 a piece. But if you buy three, it's three for $6, not $9. So it's $2 a piece. So how do you calculate that in your prices? So it's a bunch of bullshit, the way they calculate inflation. All you can do is just see money printed. The normal way would be gold. This is why gold is price fixed. Normally you would say, well, gold's 37 an ounce is now 2,050. So it's gone up all this percent. That's the real value of the money, because gold, and that should be the best way to calculate it, because gold's always 1 ounce. There is no competition for it. Silver, I guess, but gold and silver. And it doesn't go out, and there's nothing new about it. But because it's suppressed, so we assume it's, let's say, $5,000, because JP Morgan keeps it down to keep you in dollars. So there's a Ponzi scheme going on there. All these derivatives that are totally illegal and totally got nothing to do with physical gold. As some people say, well, see, to me, they're trying to inflate gold with the paper, because they're selling far more paper derivative ounces than exist, or more than the physical. So in other words, if I go sell the Mahomes, I'm not selling you a derivative Mahomes. I'm selling you the real card. Well, when they do this COMEX, they're not selling you the real card. They're selling you 1,000 paper Mahomes, and you think you have this, but you don't. Or when they do ETFs totally illegal. You think you're getting gold, you're not. You're getting paper. Well, no, I want Mahomes. I don't want paper. I don't want a Mahomes ETF. I want Mahomes. I want the card. I don't want a piece of paper saying you own the Mahomes card. Well, wait, when the shit hits the fan, how does you're doing 1,000 Mahomes on the ETF? How the fuck do you do that? How do I get mine? Oh, well, there's only one. I can't get mine, and that's the problem with ETFs and stocks and all that. You're not really buying physical unless you buy physical. But the problem with gold is the market is not set up as physical. So therefore, what do you do with it? So this is why ETFs are bad. They're basically made off. They're basically a Ponzi scheme. I believe they're telling you own physical, which you don't. You just own paper. So I don't know why Alligator's surprised when the ETFs are getting drained, because people are listening to us, or you tell your friends or whatever, and people are going, oh, get out of ETFs. You need to buy physical gold. And then Alligator can't figure that out because he doesn't know. If I went and bought 100 ounces of gold tomorrow, or my friend bought $100,000 worth of gold, that doesn't show up anywhere. It doesn't show up in his portfolio. It doesn't show up that he even bought it, and it doesn't raise the price, because the price has got nothing to do with the physical market of buying and selling physical. So if inflation on gold's 2050, we can at least double it, right? Goes to 5,000. So it went from 37 to 5,000. And so our rate of inflation, if we do that, so I'm just going into my spreadsheet. Internet's a little slow right now. Yeah, the internet was really slow getting onto opening a page. Okay, so let's say gold, hey, it's 5,000. Not 2050. Let's look at it as the real price. God, what a spreadsheet. Don't ever get this Google Docs. It's fucking ridiculous. All right, so we go from $37 to 5,000. Okay, now we're at 13,000% inflation. And let's take silver to, let's say it's really $100, which is probably more or less the real price. And now that's 6,000%. So this is probably the real inflation, because gold is gold, right? So 13,000 and 6,500%. So that's where I think that's the real inflation. But they don't want to show you that, because the dollar would be in trouble and everybody would get out of the dollar. But that's really where it is, right? We know gold is not 2050 because JP Morgan prints the derivatives to keep the price down. So it's not free market. So let's just assume 5,000 is probably 10 or 15. And if they'd get out of the way, we would know what real inflation is. Because I don't think another product out there that is not price fixed, that doesn't really change, that doesn't really have competition. Look at Bitcoin, which is really not a competitor to gold, is at 50,000. So it went from $1 to 50,000 in 10 years. I'm going back to 71. So is that inflation? Is Bitcoin 50,000 inflation? I don't think so. It's just a stock. It's a Ponzi scheme. You can't count it. Gold's gold. An ounce of gold was 37, is now 5,000, is now 13,000%. And then silver, if you got off of the price fixing, would be at least 100, probably a lot more, but let's just call it 100. And see, they've got people programmed thinking silver's 25, it'll never go up. How many times do I read somebody's page and they're saying, "Oh, silver won't, silver's 25. Oh my God, how can it get past 50? Oh, it can't." You're so programmed of believing that that's real. So you don't even realize the price isn't real. That's the problem. That's where I open up as many eyes as I can, saying that price is not real. The gold price is not real. If you have somebody doing derivatives selling it, that is not physical, which means you're lowering the price not based on the market. Anytime you get off the market, then it's not a real price. So you're not looking at the market. That's why India and China and Russia are buying gold and silver as fast as they get silver. India is buying as much silver as they can get. I mean, hundreds of thousands of tons of it. There's 500,000 tons of it. So they're probably buying 50, 60 tons of, or 50,000 tons, India. They're buying quite a bit. And eventually there won't be anything in COMEX. But COMEX does like 1,000 to 1. So they'll have 1 ounce of silver with 1,000 in the derivative, shorting it. And I don't understand the game because I don't get who's buying it then. And how do you make money shorting silver when the price should be going? How do you keep the price down is more the question. By doing why are these derivatives even allowed? Oh, because JP Morgan runs the government. Again, something that most of these people don't understand. Maloney and Andy Schechtman and this woman yesterday, and I don't know. I think Mark McGuire. I think Alligator Mark McGuire get it, but most of the others, the cowboy guy and Ric Flair and those guys, they don't get it. They don't get that the banks run the government, and so the banks are doing this illegal stuff. But so that's why it's hard to stop, because you have a monopoly. And the only way to break a monopoly is through competition. So as I told you about my VCR for football games, I think 78, 79, when it came out, it was a real big one. It was this thick and it was this, big. It was like my laptop here, and very heavy. And I had to buy tapes to record it. Now, why did the price come down? Because it wasn't a monopoly. I think it was a Sony, and then Panasonic came out, or other brands came out. And the Sony brand always was more expensive, I believe. Or the, what's the big one that they used to be? Or Philips. A Philips TV and a Magnavox were the exact same TV, but Philips sold for a couple $100 more. And as new products come out, like the horse and buggy, and then here comes the Ford cars, right? So what happens? The horse and buggy price goes down. So this is economics, and this is good. You want productivity and you want competition. However, you can't measure inflation with prices because you have to know the story. So you have to get like goods. And then if you looked at VCRs and you see the price dropping, what's your explanation? Yeah, it was 900. Now it's 200. Oh, I guess there's no more inflation. Yeah, but tuna fish just went up and milk went, foods go up. The utility, the heat and electric go up. My broccoli went up. So it all depends if it's a monopoly or competitive product. That's what makes, that's really the difference, right? That's what makes the prices go up. So here in the EU, they're saying we're going to have to raise the visa price and we're going to blame inflation. Well, how do you blame inflation? You don't even know how much inflation's going up or down if you're looking at prices. The only way you can do it is by printing money. So, okay, so you raise the EU visa $20. What does that do? What does that do for you, right? How does that help you? You're printing a lot more money, devaluing the money more than you're getting in a $20 visa. And like, what is the visa cost? Raising the price supposed to do what? How is that supposed to help? Oh, we'll get money in. That'll offset the money printing that we're doing that is raising the inflation rate. I love when people call it, they're scared to call it inflation or they just don't know, and they call it purchasing power. And inflation is printing the money, which makes it less valuable, which hurts the purchasing power because it takes, really, it takes more dollars to buy the goods and service. So by doing the inflation, and I wanted to buy a TV and it was $200, now it's $220 because my money's not worth as much, basically, which we know, we've covered that. But calculating it with CPI, all you can do is laugh. They're not even close. And if they try to tell you this is the way to measure it, if it's Mark McGuire, if it's Andy Scheckman, if it's the Cowboy Bob, what's his name? The wrestler, Cowboy Bob Orton, or if it's Ric Flair, they're full of shit. You can't do it. And as I said, if I use gold as the true value, which isn't even that, just, all right, if I use 2050, which is not even, it's a fixed price, it's up $6,000. If I use what I think is the real price of 5,000, it's 13,000% of inflation. You still want to hold the dollar? This is why they hold it down, because it gets confused. Kleenex, cell phones, computers. You don't know the price going up or down because it depends on competition, depends on the market. Now you have electric cars as the gas powered cars go down because of the competition with the electric cars. And I got to sell my gas powered car cheaper to keep you in it. Well, then that's not, how does inflation show up there? The only other way to measure inflation is really interest rates. But even that, I mean, if we looked at interest rates in 1971 and we looked at it now, it's real. What's it going to show you? It was probably 2% in 1971. And now it's what? Well, that's going to look like 6% inflation. Well, that's not true. But you're doing it on money that's worth far less. So interest rates aren't really a good way to measure it. You can measure, they went from 3% to 8%. You can do that, but that's it. Not sure what else, there's no good way to measure printing the money except for how much money is out there. And I'm a little confused by this 130 trillion overseas. As Putin said, well, you print a lot of money, but you ship it out. Well, that counts. I mean, so you got 130 trillion apparently outside the US in US dollars, because every country needs to be able to exchange. So if I'm Egon, I got Swiss francs, I want to go to Austria for dinner, I've got to exchange my money because Austrians on euros. I got to exchange my money from francs to euros, and I got to use dollars. So this is why there's so many dollars out there, mostly to exchange, right? I want $1,000. I buy 1,000 US dollars take that money to buy 1,000 euros. Now, that's one reason they want digital, so they don't have to print so much, but it can't get away from it. If it's this or digital, it all counts the same. You can't ignore that. Probably what the idiots were thinking. Oh, we'll do digital dollars, and then we can print as much as then nobody knows how much we print. We can just have it out there. Well, you can't. It doesn't work that way. And so it ends up being a mess to really figure out how many dollars are out there, although we know we printed 10 trillion or more, and we know the debt and the interest on the debt's $1.5 trillion, maybe 2 trillion every quarter. So we know we're printing 2 trillion. They're going to be a big problem because you're creating a recession, which is already here, and then unemployment gets big, which means people aren't paying taxes. Right? You work your 40 hours and you pay tax on it, right? They take the tax right out of you. They don't even give the employer an option. You are going to pay Howard's federal tax out of this check, or you're going to jail. So they do that. And so the problem is when less people are working, there is no checks. So they get less tax in with this inflation, with the higher cost killing companies. So if you cut the companies out, it's a domino effect. You cut the companies down, less people are working, less people are spending, more companies lay off, more companies go out of business, less taxes come in. This is why you don't increase taxes. It kills the economy. This is why you need sound money. You kill the economy. So what are these idiots thinking? You're going to do what? You're going to ruin the dollar with all this printing. Right? Nobody will want it. It goes to zero. Now, what are you going to do? You don't have any gold to do gold-backed currency. Even these states that will accept gold, it's not a gold standard. All they're saying is you can use gold in the store to buy things. That's really a trap because you're not getting, or you're getting, even if you get the 2050 value for it, it's not the real value. And then what do? Okay, then your gold runs out soon. But how do the people charge you? They don't know what it is. How do they make change? I mean, so just the fact that they will, like Texas, will accept gold as cash doesn't make any sense because the prices won't be in gold. And how do you get change and everything else? So digital currency is the thought of, well, I won't print, but if you're Switzerland, you still use the US dollar digitally and then buy the euro. Well, that doesn't help you. These guys are so stupid. So because you still have 10 trillion out there and you still have 130 trillion worldwide. So you got $150 trillion. If you go digital, you still have $150 trillion. I don't know how you convert it from dollars to digital. People aren't going to turn it in. I got 10 grand sitting there. You think I'm going to give it to them? And I get digital and then the whole transition, it'll never work. This is why people they'll do it by 2030. They couldn't do it if you gave them 1,000 years to do it. They couldn't do it. It's virtually impossible because you got to change all the costs and make everything digital. And how do you print money for the digital? You can't just say, okay, you got digital dollars. What do you do for credit cards, debit cards? How do you pay for things? Well, how about if I go to some place that doesn't take digital dollars? Like I went to the barbecue restaurant last night. They're not set up for digital. How do you pay them? The whole thing is just, there's no way. I mean, it's just not possible. Anyway, that's why everybody says, oh, China's got a digital currency. No, they don't. It doesn't work. They tried it. It doesn't work. So people will say they have it, but it's like saying the Lions will win the Super Bowl. No, they won't. Not with that defense, not with that coach, not with that quarterback. It won't happen. They could, but it won't happen. So anyway, so the idea of prices to calculate inflation is ridiculous. You have better chance in Bernie Madoff's fund getting paid than you do calculating inflation off of dollars. Because like I said, they go all over the place. I mean, look at gold and silver. Gold is going up 13,000 if we use 5,000, and silver's if we use $100 is up 6,000. 13,000, 6,000. I mean, it's not even the same. It's not like it's equally. It's not like everything went up 10%. Now I'm going back to 1971. Why are they going back last year and comparing last year's to this year's, saying it go down? Wow, what is that? Where do you get that from? And even if you do, there's many changes that happen. Like I said, if the VCR goes out, okay, now how do you compare it? Or you just say, oh, it went down to zero. Look at inflation's coming down because products that used to be there are no longer there. So calculating it, why 1 year? Why not 5 years? Why not 10 years? How do you come up with year versus year, the last 12 months? How do you can't calculate that? And prices go down for many reasons, not because of the inflation or inflation going down. They didn't stop printing money. So let's say we just use Pepsi, and well, it's a bad one. Let's say we used let's say we used bread, and it's $3. Let's say it was $3 last year, or let's say it was $2.90 last year. Now it's $3, or let's say it was $3.10 and went to $3. Does that tell you inflation's up or down? No, not really, because you don't know the circumstances. Oh, there was more competition. People are getting off of bread because of carbs. So we need to really track avocados because everybody's eating avocados, or we need to track broccoli and celery. We need to track veggies because everybody's going to plant. You got to understand a whole market, the supply, demand, and what's going on in order to do that. So this is the problem here. So in my mind, you can't measure inflation with prices. Why 1 year and not two? Why year versus year? And there's just so much. And then you don't include everything. Even gold's actually gone up, even though, because last year it was like, what, 19 something, and it depends when. Last week gold was down to 1990. Now it's back to 2020. So at what point are you tracking gold to get this inflation figure? Anyway, so in the EU, they're saying inflation's up. I don't know how they're measuring it, and I don't know why they measure year versus year. I mean, that doesn't make sense. So if I go back to 71, I can see there's a shitload of inflation done. The money doesn't have much left, so you got to understand it. Something bad's going to happen soon. I feel it. You get the EU busting, and the U.S. You're letting these immigrants in, and you're giving them a couple $1,000s every month for food and stuff like that. Putting them up at a hotel. How does the hotel take it? Because they can't have guests, right? So the Roosevelt Hotel, I stayed there. I paid them $150 a night or whatever. Well, they're not getting paid from these guys. So how are they staying in business? Oh, the government's paying them for the people. So they're not in a business anymore. They're in a government. And how do they get their money? Oh, they're printing it. Well, that's more inflation. You're printing money. So, again, you're just creating more and more money, inflation. And then you're trying to say inflation's down. I'm not buying it. Anyway, so we know it comes from printing. We know that's exactly what it is. We know there's no such thing as deflation. Prices go down. Look at my laptop. It was $1,000. Now it's $200, $300. Is that deflation? No, it's called competition. This is what the fuck, man? This is an ASUS, ASUS. I never heard of that brand before. It's not Sony or Microsoft or any of those brands. It's not Dell. How that guy made any money? I can't. I mean, when he talks business, I just laugh. This guy, he's clueless. All these guys on this Shark Tank are fucking clueless. They don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, So so you can't really measure the inflation, and yet they want to try to measure it. Anyway, it's just we know the dollar's collapsing, and we know it's worthless. I mean, and the question is when is the air fully out of the tire? And it took a while in Rome. I mean, once they took all their gold and silver out of their coins, they debased them. It took a while for them to collapse, but they did. Nero burnt the city to the ground, and that's kind of what started it, right? So we have the inflation, we have the money's worthless. You got an election coming up. What are you going to do? So Clinton's or Biden's gonna same guy doesn't want it to shit on him. So let's say Trump gets elected, then it's gonna shit on Trump, and they're gonna, oh look, Trump, you killed the dollar or whatever. Anyway, the only out is gold, and that's why I heavily advise you to buy it, and I do, and the silver. It's the only way that it makes sense because it can't be inflated. So it's the only product that can't be inflated. I mean, I guess, Wendy's burgers can't be, or bread, Pepsi. I mean, you could make a lot of bottles of it, but usually competition. See, it's competition keeping the price down, not deflation. That's why I argue about deflation. The assets lose value. Well, that's because of competition. But my Mahomes card didn't lose value. He won the Super Bowl. Maybe your Brock Purdy probably didn't go down because he looked pretty good. So it depends what happens. Why, if there's more computers on the market, it goes down because of competition. So is something going down because of competition? Because there's no demand, or you're going to blame what? So by printing more money, most assets should go up because it takes more money to buy it. But when you have a flood of houses on the market, that will lower the price, and it's really got nothing to do with deflation. So people that talk about deflation don't know what they're talking about. They really don't have a clue. And it's really, prices going down is, you got to look at the market and understand why. Electric cars going down, that's not deflation. That's nobody wants to buy, and there's no demand. So again, is the price going down from no demand, from heavy competition? Why are prices going down? And your house's price goes down because there's no demand. People can't afford the high interest rates, and all the inflation killing the dollar, making things cost more. So I have less to buy a house, or less to buy a car, or I got these interest rates. So a lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's very discouraging because I'm trying to tell you what's really going on, and they're confusing you with, their bullshit. Lynette Zhang, oh, we're in hyperinflation. No, we're not. We're not in hyperinflation. She doesn't know what it is, yet she says it. She says it without explaining, and she's wrong. But you'll listen to her interview and think, oh my God, we're in hyperinflation. Oh, what is it? Dad, what's hyperinflation? Well, it's when prices go up and the frenzy of people running to the stores to get it before the price goes up again. So prices are just skyrocketing. And then there's a frenzy of everybody running to the stores to buy it before it goes up even higher. That's what hyperinflation is, and that's not what we're in. I don't see the grocery stores. I don't see broccoli going up as I approach the cashier, and then as I walk out, it goes up more. And if I went in today, it would be more. I mean, I don't see that. That's what hyperinflation is not. Because inflation goes from, let's say, 3% to 6%, or from 5% to 10%, it's not hyperinflation. That's not what it means. It's when the prices are going up faster than the dollars being printed, and then the frenzy, the people are going in to buy, like in Germany, they're panicking to go in. We don't have that. I don't know if people are panicking. should they? Well, instead of panicking, just buy gold and silver is really what you can do. So that's how you do it. You don't panic about it. Anyway, so then I did a thing on gut instinct, not basic instinct, but gut instinct. So I started talking about it yesterday, and I thought about it, and I go, that was really clever. So I want to pat myself on the back, and I want to talk about it more today because I put it in the title. So people might not get it. If you didn't listen to my whole show, you don't get it, or my whole class, actually. I'm going to talk about it again. How you get gut instinct and how it's used. So again, it's in poker, it's betting our football games, it's with girls or boys, depending on who you're dating. It's even if you're married, you get the gut instinct, like, let's say the wife. Well, she's normally home at 5. It's 7:30. My gut instinct, my spider senses are like spider senses, right? They're like, where is she? She didn't call. What's wrong? That's what I did with Daria. It's like, okay, like I heard from her today. I hear from her a lot now. Now that we're kind of straightened out, if I don't hear from her, I'm kind of like, are you okay? And that's really the problem. Something out of the ordinary. Your expectations are changed. So how do we get gut instinct or spider senses or whatever you want to call it? Well, let's go to football. I like football. I go to Jenna today. I said, I'm sad it's Sunday and there's no football. She says, why are you sad? Because I love football. I love the analyzing of the football. It's like poker. Every hand's different. You have to analyze it, what you have, what the board has, and what the people have. That's what's clever about poker. You analyze it. Not like pulling a slot machine. There's nothing to analyze. So I kind of said, well, I'm joking, but I'm not. It is. I do miss the picking of the game. I enjoyed picking Kansas City to win the Super Bowl, and they win. That's a nice high. I don't like when I lose, but I don't accept losing. So when I lose, I try to figure out why I lost. When I win, I try to figure out why I win. So football, you have to get your variables down. What are you looking for? The quarterback, the defense, the running back, the coach, who's injured, the weather, and you're piling up these variables, and then you make a spread, and then here comes the spread. So in my spread last week in the Super Duper Bowl, I had Kansas City -3. They won by 3. Would have been 4 had they kicked the extra point. So after doing my analytical variable, my expected outcome or gut instinct or spider sense, whatever you want to call it, was KC should win by 3. Then I look at the real line, and Frisco's favored by 3. So my spider senses go off. My gut instinct says, oh, we got to take KC in 9. They should be favored. And in this case, I'm going to take the dog regardless, but I love KC as the dog a lot more. So how did I come to the conclusion? And that's really what I'm teaching you is Mahomes, Andy Reid, they've won 2 Super Bowls lately. They got this killer defense, better than the Niners. They have better coaching all the way around because Mahomes is sort of like the offensive coordinator, but Andy Reid. And they got Spagnuolo, who's much better. He's so much better than the Niners defense. The Niners fired their defensive coordinator. That's what they thought of their defensive coordinator. So wait, if I have better coaches, I got the best quarterback, with Joe Burrow. I've got a better defense, or at least even, and I don't have any injuries. So with all that going in, I'm sitting there going, well, Kansas City is the play. Mahomes is going to win the game. And so you go team by team, you go through all 32 teams, and you kind of rank them. And that's what I do in my thing. I go, first I do trend analysis. Are they a good road dog or home favorite or home dog or whatever? How do they play psychologically? Some teams are better at home. Some are better on road. Some are great dogs. Some are terrible dogs. Some are great favorites. Some are terrible favorites. So you try to line that up. And then you look at the points to try to figure out, are they a good offensive team or a good defensive team? So you rank your offensive teams: Detroit, Miami, Baltimore. These are, well, not necessarily Baltimore. They're pretty over. San Diego, Miami, Detroit. Let's just look at those three. Good offenses, decent quarterbacks, and really weak defenses, and really bad coaches. Although San Diego's got Harbaugh. So anyway, so that's how you get them over. They score a lot and they give up a lot. And that's why I look at the points. I see Detroit scores 27, gives up 27. This should be a high-scoring game, especially if they play another high-scoring team like a San Francisco, or even though Tampa's not high-scoring, it still got high, and the Rams got high. I knew that would be high-scoring. So you kind of look at these teams. Are they A teams, good offense and good defense? Are they over teams, good offense and no defense? And are they weak offense and weak defense, or weak offense and very strong defense? So there's only 4 categories. So you put them in what they are, and then that's why I grade them. So it's just easier to look at, oh, they're an A team, then go back to the points and try to figure it out. So I see that, and I go, okay. And I'm like, okay, what do I do here? And I look at it, and then I look at both teams. So I'm getting variables, right? So I've got what type of team they are. I look at the quarterbacks, but then I have to decipher a Mahomes from Lamar Jackson, from C.J. Stroud, from Jared Goff, from Tagliavua to Steve Young. And you have to, I look at touchdowns to interceptions because it's really the best way. And now I'm starting to look at how many times they've been sacked, which shows me either they have a terrible line or they can't read a defense and they keep getting sacked. Like Steve Young, he got sacked. Hey, Greg and John, how are you doing? So when you see that, it tells you what you got at quarterback. So that's you're building it up. So at the end, you come to a conclusion, and that's your instinct, right? Now you've got your gut instinct to make the pick. And so what you're looking for is, okay, Kansas City, strong offense, strong defense. Mahomes, good coaching. Frisco, strong offense, strong defense. Not so good at coaching, but okay. And so then you go, well, I prefer KC to be the underdog. And once they were, my gut instinct took over and said, oh, we're betting on Kansas City. That's when your gut instinct comes in at the end after looking at it. But then because I spend so many hours a week looking at each team, I don't even need to, by the end, I don't even need to look at anything. Oh, KC's the dog, bet him. KC's the dog, bet him. I know who I get in Baltimore. I know who Buffalo is. Once I hit the playoffs, I don't really have to research it. Now, what gets you is the first 4 weeks and then the next 4 weeks. Because of no preseason, which I don't know why. We don't want to get anybody injured. Oh, okay. So let's make it tennis, guys. Let's not play football. So they don't want to get anybody injured. Nobody plays preseason. There's a bye before. So with all that happening, how do you know who the team is week 1, especially if there's a new coach or a new quarterback? Cincinnati could beat KC next year. Maybe San Diego. We got to see what Harbaugh brings to the table. Denver, we got to see what they do. The Jets, if Aaron Rodgers plays. So, yeah, there are teams. See, the Jets, if you have Aaron Rodgers, he equals Mahomes, and then their defense is just as strong as KC's. So what you're looking for is a strong defensive team with a good quarterback, Joe Burrow, right? The Jets, if Aaron Rodgers, San Diego with Harbaugh will have a much better defense. They got Herbert. So there are teams that could, because we're looking at the formula. The formula is strong defense, good quarterback, good coach, and no injuries. So Burrow got hurt, Aaron Rodgers got hurt, so it made it easy for Mahomes. But you can't look at this year and look, they just beat the Niners and they just beat Baltimore and Buffalo and go, that's it. That's why I don't like Mahomes, or I don't like Lamar. He doesn't win those games. He never wins those games. So why would you get all excited about Lamar? And then the media, oh, he's the MVP. Of what league is he the MVP of? Are you kidding me? So anyway, so you're looking at, so the first, so you cut it into the first 4 weeks and then the second 4 weeks, because the team, here's Russell Wilson. He's on Denver, and now he's got Sean Payton. We don't know what we're getting. We got to watch them for 4 games to figure out, are they now an A team? Are they now an over team? Are they were an under team. They had a good defense. They weren't scoring that much. They gave up that 80 points to Miami, which really skewed them. But you're learning the team. And, okay, KC, we probably – everything stays even. We probably don't need to wait 4 weeks. We know what we got with KC. Although week 1, Kelsey didn't play, and the lineman didn't play. I keep wanting to call him Neil Smith, but I know that was 10 years ago. But whatever the guy's name was, their superstar defensive tackle. So anyway, we kind of know what they are. So teams that are kind of back, like Baltimore, we know what they are. And Buffalo, we know what they are. It's Houston with Stroud. It was Carolina with Steve Young. How are they? And we see that Carolina is absolutely terrible. And we see Stroud is mediocre. And then we see Jordan Love at Green Bay. Okay, he looks a little bit better than he looks like he did the junior year at Utah State, where he was very good. The senior year, he sucked. So he looks like he's getting better. The Lions looked good, beating a bunch of bad teams. So it's like the inflation. It's like, well, prices are coming down. Yeah, but the computers now have a lot more competition, which lowers prices. Not inflation going down, but competition lowering it. It's the same thing here. The Lions won, but they didn't beat anybody with a winning record. And they played Baltimore. They got killed. And the only other good team they played was Dallas, and they lost to them by a point. And you can see Dallas isn't any good. And they avoided all the Buffaloes. Well, they avoided Buffalo and Miami. And they lost to San Diego, or they beat San Diego by 3. Lost to Seattle, lost to Green Bay, lost to Chicago. So are they really that good? Well, we'll see next year. They'll have the hard schedule. And then if they can do what they did, which I doubt, because that's the Lions' MO, plus they'll start letting free agents go. They won't sign anybody. That's the Lions normally. So you're trying to figure out teams, right? What type of team they are. So you go the first 4 weeks, and you kind of, okay, well, bet KC and maybe San Diego, and, we can't bet Cleveland. We don't know who they are. Pittsburgh, we got to get who's the quarterback. Baltimore, we can bet. Buffalo, we can bet. So you got 6 or 7 you can go with. And same thing in college. Okay, who's returning? And then you can figure that out. In college, it's going to be a bitch because all these quarterbacks left, and then Van Dyke went to Wisconsin, and Gabriel went to Oregon from Oklahoma. So who are they? So it's going to be watched the first 3 weeks. College football, well, what makes that difficult is they play the high school teams. So they win 76-0 against nobody. So how do you can't judge that. That doesn't help you. Now, if Oklahoma goes to Ohio State and wins, then you can say, yeah, Oklahoma's good. But you didn't. That's why you couldn't. You had no idea how good Michigan was. They didn't play anybody, and that's what pisses me off. They got rewarded for playing nobody in their schedule. And the normal Ohio State was not very good last year. And, until they played Alabama, and it wasn't a prime Alabama team. So really, they didn't play anybody. Washington was by far their best team. They played them well. But we didn't know until they played them that if they were any good or not. They weren't the best team in the country. They could not have beat Georgia. They could not have beat Oregon. So you have that. But that's what you're trying to learn, is what type of teams everybody is. Then your gut instinct takes over. So you see the pick. That's why I tell you I've seen something next week. It's the Oklahoma, Texas. I'm taking the dog, as I told you a month before, because Texas had beat them like 54-0 2 years ago. I said, the way Oklahoma looks, I'm going to take the dog in that game, which was Oklahoma, and they won the game straight out. That was a gut instinct based on what happened the prior year and how good they were. And so you're judging. You've got to read everything in it. Quarterback, do they have a run? That's why I like Oklahoma State. They got the running back, right? I got to keep looking because I can't remember. Ollie Gordon. I'm getting close to remembering. They have Ollie Gordon. He's like fucking Jim Brown. I'm going to bet on him. I'm going to win a lot of money. And I did. I won a lot of money betting Oak State once I saw Ollie Gordon break a tackle at the line of scrimmage and nobody could catch him and he scores a touchdown. I'm like, okay, that's the type of guy I want to bet on. But you don't know it week one. You know, near the end, Missouri had a great running back, which you don't know. And then you start seeing him against Georgia and some other games, and you go, oh, then you get him against Ohio State at the end of the year in the bowl game, and you jump all over Missouri because you realize they're a really good team. They got a really good running back. I'm going to bet them against Ohio State, who didn't have a good defense anyway. They had a good they didn't have a good offense. And Missouri won 14-3. So the gut instinct, first calculating the variables, understanding what's important and what isn't. And most people don't even understand that. They don't know what they're looking at. Turnovers, time of possession. That's meaningless. You judge a quarterback based on touchdowns to interceptions. You hope you have a running game. And then you look at your defense. So I get all excited the last couple of years with Georgia's defense. They give up 7 points a game, and they're playing good teams. How many times did I lock them under, right? I mean, I think of 13 games, I locked them under 11 and won all 11. This year they started scoring a little bit more. The defense wasn't as strong. So I had to get off of them. But mostly they did hang in there under. The under was good. But again, you've got to read the first 4 or 5 weeks. And by keeping the stats and avoiding the high school teams, you then get a very clear picture. Oh, this team gives up. Iowa gives up 8 points a game. You see, you bet them under every week, and you're laying 30. I mean, we won the Michigan game. It was like 34. So I locked it under 40, which is ridiculous. But you get caught up in the numbers. But realizing this great defense and no offense, you're not going to get points, and you didn't get points. So with that said, that's what you're really looking at is the type of team. That's what you're trying to get to. And then you can easily see quarterback. Oh, he threw for 20 touchdowns and 1 interception. Yeah, I think I'm going to bet on him. And then he'd come up against Auburn and LSU, and he doesn't show up. So that's really the difference, right? They don't show up in those games. And that's why I don't like him as a pro, because every big game he chokes. So, but you record that. So once you've got established what type of teams they are, an A team, a Z team, an over and under, then you have that in your bank. And then the light goes off and the gut instinct comes on when you see the matchup you want. And that's what you want. Michigan, Ohio State, I'm taking the dog. And I took Ohio State, and they won. Like Oregon, Washington, Oklahoma, Texas, even the Super Bowl, took the dog and won. And that's what the gut instinct is. Like you know what you see it and you bet it. That's what a gut instinct is. With in poker, you feel the hand. You kind of learn the guy. So again, you're learning the variables. This guy only bets when he's got a hand. He's an older guy. He's not going to bluff. He can't afford it. He can't afford to lose. So you're judging your players based on how you fold. You know you're going to win. You know the guy's got a strong hand. You know the guy's got a weak hand. And that's really what gut instinct is, because you can't see the cards because he's got the two. So you go from there. What team should Daniels and Knicks go to in the draft? I don't know. Who do you think is a good fit? I don't know. I don't think like that. I would say I'd say Bo Nix if he went to Minnesota because of Jefferson. I think Pittsburgh, they got good defense. They got a pretty good team. I would tell you Baltimore. would do better with Nix and Daniels. If I was Baltimore, I would take Daniels, but they'll never do it because they got Lamar. He'd be much better there. I think Nix would be much better in Miami than what you got. They overvalue their players, and they undervalue the draft. I saw a mock draft where Nix didn't even go in the first round, or Penix, and you're like, well, this is the problem. Drake May, he's athletic, so he can run, and he's got a big arm. Well, that doesn't make you a good quarterback. How many times does Mahomes run and have a big arm? He doesn't. Brock Purdy doesn't run and doesn't have a big arm. He's accurate, but doesn't have a big arm. So, let's put it this way. Daniels should go to a team. I want to see him do well, so I'd rather see him at a decent team. He'd fit at Detroit. He'd fit at Chicago. But they're so unorganized. I hate to see him go there. But teams like that. And then Bo Nix, San Diego, Minnesota, Oakland. Teams that are pretty good. Pittsburgh could use either of those, and Cleveland could. You can't count on Deshaun Watson. I mean, he's done nothing in 2 years. Now they just signed Thompson Robinson from UCLA, who I think's good. So, I don't think he's as good as Daniels or Bo Nix. See, this is the impartial part of these guys. They can't be impartial. You have to say, is Fields better than Bo Nix and Daniels or not? Not saying we've got Fields, so we don't need to draft anybody. I don't know why they're all in on Caleb. I don't understand that. Why don't they just take, Primetime Junior? Why don't they just draft him? It's a joke. Primetime, here's what's going to happen. Primetime Junior will play his 4 years, and then Primetime will go coach the Oakland Raiders, and they'll draft Primetime Junior, and he'll be the quarterback because his dad's the coach. This is exactly what's going to happen. You watch. He's getting his little coaching experience. He's primetime, so everybody loves him. And the kid, he's probably not a bad quarterback, although he took a lot of sacks and not too many turnovers, but enough. So you really don't know what to do with it. And anyway, this is the problem. So that's one thing you have to understand. So it's hard to say, Greg and John, because it depends who else they draft, who they sign free agent, if there's a trade. So, he ain't going to Cincinnati. You got Joe Burrow, and he's not going to Kansas City. And I don't think he's better. They're not better than Mahomes or Burrow. All right. We know that, right? At least Cincinnati was smart enough to draft Burrow and get rid of their quarterback, knowing he's better. But it's even, this Steve Young guy. Would you rather have Daniels and Bo Nix than Steve Young? Of course. But they're too stupid to see it. They just drafted him number one, and they don't want to look bad. It's sort of like the U.S. government. They don't want to look bad, like, oh, we've inflated the dollar to crap and we've ruined the crap. They don't want to take blame for it, so they blame Putin, right? It can't be that we fucked up. So that's what Carolina can't say, we fucked up with Young, or Indy can't say we fucked up with Richardson, or Houston can't say we fucked up with Stroud. They got to just go from there and do that. Caleb is number one rated by whom? He is a decent quarterback, Sanders, yeah. But okay, Caleb is number one rated by whom? Mel Kiper. And how does Mel Kiper? He can't rate quarterbacks. So I would rate Daniels ahead of Caleb because Daniels won a lot of big games. He had Alabama until he got knocked out in the game. And Bo Nix killed everybody, and Penix beat Oregon twice. So if you're going by wins and losses, who the hell did Caleb beat? He didn't beat anybody. He put up points. He lost to UCLA, he lost to Utah, lost to Washington. If he played Oregon, he got killed. He barely beat Arizona, which was probably the best team they Notre Dame. So what has he done in the big games that would make him the top-rated quarterback? He can run around. Oh, he's like Lamar. He runs. Well, he doesn't even run. He just runs around. So he's one of these running type of quarterbacks who may be accurate. He's small. I don't think he'll be any good in the. I would rather have. I think Nix, Penix, Hartman, and Daniels. I can see them coming in and doing like Brock Purdy, where they come in and they look good, right? I don't think Williams will come in and look good, and I know Drake May will not look good at all. Caleb's going to come in, and let's say he goes to Washington or the Bears, and he's going to look like shit. He's going to look like Vince Young or Steve Young or whatever Young. He's just going to look terrible, and they're going to say, well, this is his first year. It was Purdy's first year. He looks fine. It was Herbert's first year. He looked fine. Burrow in his first year. He looked fine. Mahomes in his first year. He looked fine. So wait a minute. You need excuses for Steve Young, and you need excuses for Caleb and Drake May, and you need excuses for Pickett and Trubisky. So they finally let Trubisky go. Well, if you listen to my draft, whenever that draft year was, I questioned why they drafted him, and they drafted him like in the first round, 7th or 8th, Chicago did. I thought they were out of their fucking minds. So I called it. They had to draft them. Why, I don't know. See, a lot of it is they didn't know, and then somebody said, we're going to take them, and they said, oh, we'll draft ahead of them, and we'll take them. It's all a scam. I mean, they're just saying it, and that's what happened. He is a decent quarterback, Sanders. Well, we'll see. What I'm looking at is Penix beat Oregon twice, and then he beat Texas. All right, he lost to Michigan, but he had 3 good wins plus some other good wins, right? He beat Washington State, Oregon State in the rain, who was a very good defense. So he won a lot of games. That's what I'm looking at. Sanders didn't win a lot of games. He beat TCU, who was struggling with a whole new team after they went to the championship, but they lost their quarterback and other people. And I thought their backup quarterback, who won the starting job, was better than he was, but they gave up. It was like 54-53 or something. But when he came on against where was he against Oregon? 44-6. And what did Penix do against Oregon? He beat him twice. That's what you look at, right? Penix beats Oregon twice. Oregon kills Primetime Junior 44-6. He kills USC. They killed Oregon State. They won. They killed a lot of good teams. They just shut you down. That's what you're looking at is Penix beat them and Sanders gets 6 points on him. That's what you look at and you go, shit. Sanders against the good team didn't show up. Penix showed up and beat him twice. That's why you're high on Penix because he wins big games. Against Michigan, there was the 2 bullshit holding calls, or they might have won that game. That was ridiculous. That's when you can tell a game's fixed, is the holding calls. That's why I laughed. They think the Super Bowl was fixed for Kansas City. I go, there's no way. There's no way. He didn't, because if it was fixed, Mahomes would have thrown 2 or 3 interceptions. He didn't. You would have had all these holding penalties or pass interference against KC. There wasn't. In fact, there was one holding in the overtime on Kansas City. So if it was fixed so they would win, they wouldn't have gotten that call. It would have been a Frisco holding call. So there was no fixed game in the Super Bowl. It's just Mahomes is so good, and he's able to. It was a tight game. Both teams were good with good defenses, and that's exactly what you thought. 1919 exactly has the game should have been, but it wasn't fixed. It's not WWF where they say, yeah, Mahomes, KC's going to win. But even in the WWF, if you listen to Ric Flair and those guys, it's not, the moves are just random. It's, okay, Ric Flair is going to lose to the Macho Man, and he loses, right? But all the moves leading up to it are just their own move, whatever happens. So in a football game, the only way it's fixed is if the quarterback throws a lot of interceptions, like Super Bowl III or the Tampa-Oakland one, where the coach never changed the plays. That's it. Otherwise, they did not fix that game. Not any good free agent quarterbacks. Cousins is a free agent, but he always chokes. Well, you answered your own question. I mean, who's the free agent quarterbacks? I don't know. There's not a lot of good ones anyway. Justin Herbert's at San Diego, and I mean they're pulling quarterbacks out of their asses. Joe Flacco, guy's 60 years old, and they're playing him and winning with him. I wouldn't go there. I would say the free agents are like Trask at Tampa Bay, who's their backup, who's a lot better than Mayfield. But again, the coach goes to Mayfield because he's got experience. I mean, I even saw Brett Gabbert, the backup on KC. I'd much rather have Trask. So you got a guy like Trask sitting there who should be playing. And that's it. And you got, mostly the coaching's so bad and the defense is too high zone. So you need a certain type of quarterback who can read and is accurate and what to do with the too high zone. And basically you run on it. So that's why I think they go to these running quarterbacks. But again, that's where your gut instinct takes over. So the gut instinct is like second nature. It's like you watch Penix in college, or I watched Trask at Florida, right? And he lit up Alabama and he lit up Georgia. He lit up these teams, right? They would lose, but he'd put 40 points up on very good defenses. That makes me believe he's a good quarterback because he's doing it against Alabama's and Georgia's. And that's why, so my instinct is this guy's pretty good based on what I saw him do against very good teams. And that's what you got to be careful of. This is why I pick on the Lions. They didn't do anything against very good teams. They got killed by Baltimore, and they lost to Dallas. Granted, the 2-point conversion bullshit, but that's the coach screwed himself up again. This might be the worst coach I've ever seen, this Lions coach. He might be a good motivator. Hey, rah, 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 let's get out. He's a terrible coach. He sends 5 guys to the ref to do a 2-point conversion to say this guy's eligible. And he doesn't realize the ref's going to go into the Dallas huddle and say, oh, number 70 is eligible. Oh, okay, we'll guard him. We won't pay any attention to 68 because it's the ref telling us who's eligible. So what are you playing these games with rushing 3 guys, 4 guys to the ref? It's what you don't need to hide it. Just 68 should have went to the ref, said I'm eligible, and the pass would have been probably incomplete because they would have covered him, and you wouldn't have all this bullshit. But the Lions, again, always looking for an excuse of how they got screwed. And, again, it's just how stupid they are. So, again, they didn't beat anybody. So how do you take anything out of it? They beat a lot of bad teams. So, again, Dallas being the second. And there's not a lot of good teams in the league. So keep that in mind. And they still ended up losing to Seattle, Green Bay, and Chicago, and Dallas, who wasn't not a very good team. Dallas beat a lot of shit teams at home. The Giants, the Jets, New England, I think. I mean, they beat Washington. They had the Giants in Washington twice, so they beat them both. They killed them both at home. That's 2 wins. The Jet wins, New England wins. So there's 5 or 6. I think they did lose at Arizona, but I mean, that's 5 wins. I think they beat the Rams, which was their best win. Well, you're talking the Lions coach? Well, he lost the game because of incompetence. So think about it, right? The Lions are up 24-7. They drive down to the 30. It's 4th and a couple. You kick the field goal. You've taken time off the clock, and now you're back to 17. Because what you have to understand is they still got to outscore you by 17 again. Now it's 14. And you just gave them momentum instead of kicking the field goal. Even if you miss the field goal, you at least tried it. But if you just go for it and not get it, it's a turnover. So you turn it over, and 2 plays later, they score a touchdown because you got a safety that can't catch a ball, hits him in the face mask, and Ayuk takes it. But I think it was going to be pass interference anyway. But you give him the ball at the 5, and McCaffrey scores, and now you're down 7 when you should have been up 17 or at least attempted that. But you probably would have made it. It was only 46, 47 yards, and pros now, they're making 55, 56 yarders very easily. I think the ball must be tight like golf, where these guys hit the golf ball so much farther, which really doesn't make sense. I mean, I played in the 80s with my Hogan Apex clubs, and not a problem. I hit the ball as sweet as I could. My 8-iron's going 150 yards. I mean, it's not – now they go 200, and you're like, okay, there's no way. I mean, I hit it perfect. I can't hit it 200 yards. But that's what you have. So that's why you have to go for it. So they had cut it to 14, so it's 24-10 with momentum, and you drive back on them, and you give up the momentum on a stupid coaching decision. Then 2 plays later, they hit the Ayuk play, touchdown. Now it's down 7. So now it's down to 24-17. Now you start choking. What do? The first play, your Alabama running back does what he does. He chokes and fumbles. That's what they do at Alabama. So he fumbles the ball. Look at Milrose against Michigan. They got the game won. He fumbles. So he fumbled the ball. 2 plays later, Niners tie it up. So had you kicked a field goal, you're back 17. Then you probably still have the Ayuk play. And do you still have the fumble? Maybe. So let's say those both happen. Then it would be 27 to 24. Lions would still be up 3 and in control. Then they drove down again to the 35 or 30 or whatever, and it was 4th and 2 again. And no, it was 27-24. So in the meantime, Frisco had taken the lead. So it was 24-all. Frisco kicks the field goal, 27-24. Then you tie the game at 27, because then whatever the Lions do, you can match them, which you did. The Lions, the Niners, you didn't kick the field goal. The Niners score a touchdown to go up 10, and then you scored a touchdown to cut it to 3. So again, if you just kick your field goal, you drove on them. If you kick your field goal, the game's tied. They score, go up 7, you tied it. Now we're in overtime. Or knowing the Lions, they would have went for 2 and lost the game going for 2, saying, well, that's analytics said to do that. Only a coach that doesn't know what he's doing uses analytics. Analytics don't work. Analytics is not the gut instinct. See, that's where we get to, right? If I'm the coach, my gut instinct tells me what to do because I've seen it enough. And I know what would Bill Walsh do? What would Lombardi do? What would Bill Parcells do? I would know what to do by just seeing what happened. This isn't the time to go on 4th down. This isn't the time to go for 2. And look at the Super Bowl. Nobody went for 2. Nobody, KC. It's 19-16 at the end. KC kicks a field goal, 19-all. They didn't go for it. They kicked a field goal and go to overtime. And Frisco didn't go for it. They were up 16-13. They didn't. Well, I mean, really, it's just you should have kicked the extra point and gone up 4. But the Michigan guy was just a bit of a choker, missing like 6 kicks in the year. What a choke that guy. What a waste of a draft pick that guy is. I would just, cut him and then try to get a good kicker this year. But he was horrible. He cost him the Super Bowl, basically. He kicks the extra point. They win 20-19? It'd have been 20-16, and then Casey would have had to score a touchdown to beat him, which maybe they don't do, but they just kicked a field goal. So the Michigan kicker cost them the Super Bowl, basically. But this is the thing. If he plays on gut instinct, the coach would have known what to do. He would have kicked the field goal to tie the game at least, and then said, "There's not much time left, and then whatever the Niners do with the ball, I can tie them." But you're up. You're now still down 3. Your gamble didn't pay off, and it was a stupid gamble because even if they, let's say, got the first down, you still have the ball, let's say the 25, 30-yard line, and now you got first down. What was the gamble? Nothing. You still have the ball, and you still aren't close to the end zone, and then you got to hope you don't turn it over. You hope you don't get a penalty or a sack. And at best case, maybe you run 3 more plays, and then you're kicking your field goal. So maybe you're kicking the field goal closer. Maybe you don't even have the ball, or maybe you get sacked and holding penalties put you out of range. So what was the reward for the risk anyway? So had he gotten the reward, had he got the first down, there was no reward for doing it in the first place. There's absolutely no reward for doing the kick, going for 2 or going for the first down in either case, because you're at the 30-yard line, and even if you get the first down, it's not going to guarantee you a touchdown. Not against the Niner defense. That's the point of it. When you're playing a defense like that, you can't. You're taking a great risk for no reward. In finance, we say that's really stupid. That'd be like me buying stock in Ford right now and selling my gold to buy Ford. Huge risk, and the reward is Ford's going to 0 anyway because they can't sell electric cars. So there's got to be a reward for the risk. On 4th and 1, at the 1, the reward is the touchdown. So at least you can see it. But from the 30, the reward is nothing. A first down is not really a reward. You might as well just kick the kick, get your points. The reward's the points. So you turn down the reward, and then you lost the game. So, yeah, and that's what happens. That's why he's not a good coach. He has no gut instinct. He has no feel for the game. He doesn't understand the game, and all he does is go with analytics because he doesn't know what he's doing. So he doesn't really understand what do I got to do to win the game, and that's get my points when I can. I'm playing the fucking 49ers with the top or second-rated defense in the league behind KC and Baltimore maybe. So do I really think I'm going to get the first down? Absolutely not. I mean, your odds on getting it against the Niners were 10%, and the reward was nothing. Instead, you didn't do anything, and you lost the game. That's where the gut instinct's got to come in. But for the gut instincts So what we're looking at is what type of team for the first four. She's fine, thank you. For the first four games, you're trying to establish what's changed: the new coach, the draft, the new quarterback. How does Steve Young look? How does Richardson look? How does Stroud look? How does Deshaun Watson, is he better? What's going on in Pittsburgh? And so that's the first 4 weeks. You're trying to decipher the new players, the new coaches. There's always 6 or 7 new coaches. How is Harbaugh going to do? Well, we have an idea because we saw him at San Francisco. Should have a really good defense. They should be a lot better because defense wins games for you. But he's lucky enough he's got Herbert and Keenan Allen, and he's got Kelly, and he's got the other running back. So he's got a very good team. Maybe he needs a few linemen, offensive and defensive linemen, but basically he's got a great team that the coach killed him. So that's what you're looking at. How's Denver with Sean Payton? So let's give it 4 weeks. We don't have a new coach. We're going to have a new quarterback. And let's see what the team looks like. They'll get 10 new players between the draft and the free agents, and we'll get rid of the guys that suck. And then we'll see what happens there. And then you got teams like Miami and New Orleans and Atlanta and Tampa Bay, and you don't know what to do with those. That's the problem with the league. There's so many inconsistent teams that really suck that you don't really you can't get an instinct on, right? So I want to keep calling it basic instinct, but it's not my gut instinct. There isn't one with those teams. I don't know how to bet Tampa. I don't know how to bet Atlanta or New Orleans. Miami, I go over on. The Jets I liked under. New England, I don't know what to do with them. And now with this new coach, they'll be lucky to win a game. We'll see who they get as quarterback, but can they even establish the quarterback? Oakland, I don't know. They were a good defensive team. So when Oakland played KC, I locked the under because KC I knew was a good defensive team. Pittsburgh, good defensive team. So, you got the coach who's a good defensive coach, and then you got a good defense and no quarterback. So if they bring in a good quarterback, they go to an A team. Now I know how to bet Pittsburgh. So there's a lot of teams that you're just scratching your head going, I don't know how to play them. The Bears, I mean, if they go to Caleb, they'll probably suck. The Packers looked a little bit better. The Vikings, who's their quarterback? If they draft one, then you'll have to see. So my bet is Minnesota will move up to draft one, or they'll just take Hartman or Penix if they're just sitting there at 10, and that'll be their quarterback. I would put them in the lead with San Francisco if they got Penix or Bo Nix or Hartman. With Jefferson, they'd be dynamite, and then pick up a few defensive players. Dallas with Taylor with Prescott, they suck. I don't like the running back. I left their defense, but their quarterback's terrible. And the problem is, it's like Baltimore doesn't realize they can't win with Lamar. Dallas doesn't realize they can't win with Prescott. So how come we can see it and they can't? That blows your mind. Yeah, Frisco can win with Purdy. We know Cincinnati with Burrow. We know LA with Stafford. Seattle can't win with Geno Smith. Not with all that talent at wide receiver, how they don't win every game. Although I'm afraid that Smith Najimy was terrible as I thought he was. And it was a stupid draft because you already had 2 good receivers. You got bigger problems on defense and a quarterback need than to get a 3rd receiver. So Seattle's got some serious trouble they got to fix. And then Arizona, you don't know. So there's the teams that, you're trying to figure. Now, Kyler Murray was injured for 10, 12 weeks last year. So then you just peel in that. And then what I do is, as we got near the end, I just went for defense the last 7 games. I said, fuck early. Now the defenses are settled in. Let's just look at the defense the last 7 games. And that's when I saw Detroit go from a 22 to a 27. And I go, aha. Yeah, they got killed by Green Bay Thanksgiving. They lost at Chicago and barely beat Dallas. And we knew they got killed by Baltimore. and giving up points. So they had a few. Oh, they beat Carolina and they beat Atlanta where they didn't allow a touchdown, but against everybody else, they're giving up 20 points a game. Now it's ironic because San Francisco fires their defensive coordinator. Never should have hired him, but when you're giving up 31 points to the Lions in a championship game, you got a problem with your defensive coordinator. When you got a defense with Bosa and all those studs, and you're giving up 31 to the Lions, he wasn't blitzing, and that's ridiculous. You can't play a soft zone the whole game and lose and lose and lose. You know, should have lost to Green Bay, should have lost to the Lions, and did lose to Kansas City. So that's not my defensive coach. The girlfriend's fine. She was what was she? She explained it. She's a little scared to travel, and the daughter does have. She's got hard classes in 9th grade, so she's actually doing some studying for him in 7th, which like a chemistry and a physics. So I'm like, okay, if is she going to be a doctor? I mean, if she's going after those. And, you know, they're hard for anybody, especially in 7th grade to learn them. It'd be hard in 9th. I never took those classes. I took finance classes. But anyway, so everything's fine. You ever listen to Lena Petrova? Yeah, I do. I don't like her. She's a Russian, but she's a CPA. CPAs don't know economics. CPAs know tax and auditing, and they know accounting, but they're not economists. So this is why really the only person to listen to is Egon, and then sometimes Alligator. All these other guys, Peter Schiff and the cowboy guy, they don't know economics. They're salesmen, basically, and they hear keywords and they run with them, but they don't know what they are. See, like I just explained prices and economics to you for the first hour, saying how, you know, certain prices go higher than other prices, like a house and a car and oil and gold and Pepsi and McDonald's or Wendy's. And so how do you use the prices as inflation when they're all over the place? One goes up 50%, one goes up 500%. So how do you think you're going to take an average of all that and say that's what inflation is? Plus, you don't know, based on competition, all the different computer companies lowered the price of computers because the competition came in, and there's price wars because they want your business. And so are the prices coming down because of inflation, or are they coming down because of competition? This is the problem. And the only thing is, if gold wasn't price fixed, you would know what inflation is, which is why they price fix it. Because if you know the dollar was getting, if gold is $5,000 an ounce, which is easily should be at, the inflation would be 13,000% since 1971. And if you knew that, then you would have no confidence in the dollar, and word would get out. Nobody, as it is, it's 6,500% from 37 to 2050 since 71 till today. So the gold inflation, well, you don't really call it that. The amount of money it takes has gone up 6,000, or roughly, I think 5,600%. And that tells you how much the dollar's lost in value, because this is where Egon and Alligator get confused. It's not that gold, you know, he says, well, it's the dollar going down, not gold going up. It is gold going up, but it's the gold never changes. It's an ounce of gold before, and it's the same ounce of gold now. It's the same ounce of gold that was in Rome. So the ounce of gold hasn't changed. That's the point. It's just simply the dollar losing value, but the dollar should have lost a lot more value. But even if you just looked at gold, it's down 60 or 5,600%, which tells you a whole lot. But I'm not a big fan of Lena. She might be a good CPA, but you've got to understand CPAs know tax and they know auditing and they know like how to do, payables and receivables. That's at a different level than Austrian economics and a master's, right? So CPA knows it's tax, it's auditing, it's financial statements. There's one other thing, like legal. Okay. What does that got to do with inflation? I bet you she does not know what inflation is, nor what's going on with gold and silver that is price fixed. I doubt she knows that. So you just have to be careful who you're listening to and understand it. If you listen to Rickards or Rick Rude or Scheckman, you got to understand they don't know what they're talking about. Rick Rude and Reichard are both Keynesians. This Lynette is a Keynesian, which means they don't believe in a free market economics. And because when I hear this woman yesterday talking about velocity, she clearly doesn't. That's not a Keynesian thing. I don't have it in any of my notes, velocity. It's how much the money moves hands. Doesn't matter because it's how much money is printed. Do I ever talk velocity? If it was important, wouldn't you think I would talk velocity? It's not important and it's not real. If you pay for Teaserking and then I go to the grocery store and spend it, and then they go and they give it to their employees in payroll, and then the employees go to Target and buy dishwashing soap, what does that mean? That doesn't measure anything. That's what the money does. What measures inflation is how many dollars are printed. What I do with the printed dollar, if I keep it in my safe or if I spend it, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to spend I'm going to go get gas. I'm going to go get food. That's a normal thing I'm going to do. So what is the point of that? It measures what? Inflation? Really? No. How much money is printed measures inflation. So I don't know what the fuck that velocity even means. Or justifying it's a word she hears, so she uses it, like hyperinflation. She doesn't know what hyperinflation is. Hyperinflation simply prices going up really fast and people panicking to go to the store to buy before they go up more. So in other words, if milk was $3 and you run to the store and then at the end of the day it's $4, then you run, now there's a frenzy because I want to buy milk before it hits $10. That's not what's happening now. So I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. She doesn't know what inflation is, but what does she do? Oh, we're in hyperinflation now, and she pounds the table. So we're in it because she said it. And who the fuck is she? This is the problem. You've got people that really don't understand what they're saying, or they can't explain it. You want to put us in hyperinflation? What is hyperinflation, and how do you know we're in it? And you can't explain it because you don't know what the fuck it is. You just heard the term. So what does Lena know? I don't know. I've listened to her a couple times. I can tell she's a Russian with Lena Petrova. That's a Russian name. She's a Russian CPA, and I doubt they're learning Austrian economics in Russia. They do get into gold, but I think they just know that the U.S. dollar is collapsing because they don't have gold, so we'll have gold. I don't know if they're Austrian economists or not, but they do want to go to the gold standard. And all I know is when the gold standard comes out in Russia or brics or gold back oil, that's the end of COMEX, and then we will get a free market gold price finally. And then you can really measure inflation. Watch the gold price go from 2,050 to 10,000 in 6 months. Then you can measure inflation from the 2,050 to the 10 and go, geez, it just went up $7,000. That's a lot because it takes more dollars to buy the gold. But gold does go up in price like any other asset. The the market's based on the demand, the supply and the demand. Well, we know the supply is limited in gold, but the demand's huge, but it doesn't show the price. Well, once we get to a real physical market, then as people buy, you see the price go up and you go, oh, okay, that's the price. That's the real price of gold. Nobody's doing these phony derivatives to keep the price down. Then it just goes up and up and up. And then finally at 10,000, I go, I'll sell an ounce. Does that really even get recorded? But that's really what'll happen. And that's what we need to understand. But anyway, that's what goes on. But it is interesting. Look at these. In 1971, McDonald's was 10 cents. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, that shows you how good the dollar was, how strong it was to keep, well, it's confusing because it shows you it's 10 cents. Just a second. It shows you the value of the dollar back then, that they could sell a hamburger at McDonald's for 10 cents. Now, was it a competitive market? Not really. I mean, I don't know. Did you have Burger King and Wendy's back then? Probably not. So that's what makes it difficult to ascertain. I'm just sending Darius some food money. All right. So sorry about that. So that's what you got. Excuse me for that. I mean, Greg and John, the only one you want to listen to really is Egon, and then Alligator kind of, he's not an economist, but he knows. Egon's the best. Egon Von Guris is the one I recommend, and then Alligator. Mark McGuire, when he doesn't have a guest, does help us with brics and what's going on in Russia. Those are the three guys I would pay attention to. The other guys, the Andy Scheckmans and the Peter Schiffs and the Reicherts and the Rick Rudes and all these others, that cowboy guy and then these other Yankee Doodle Dandy guy, they don't know what they're talking about, and all they're going to do is confuse you. You're going to listen to something they say, but you don't know if it's accurate because they're not really explaining it. So the Yankee stacker is sitting there going, well, and I listen to them for a few minutes. Then I realize I don't know what they're talking about, and then I get frustrated and give them a thumbs down and stop wasting my time. But that's really what it is they don't, he's sitting there going, well, yeah, gold, silver might hit 50, but then I might have to close my doors because I don't think it'll go over 50 because COMEX will keep it down. So he doesn't understand supply and demand. He doesn't understand inflation or brics because, then if I bought it at 50, I'm going to get stuck with it at 50. In other words, it won't go past 50. What are you talking to? Are you aware of what's going on now? No. Does he even know what brics are? Never brings it up. Does he even know? He knows that COMEX price fixes it. So he's scared to buy it at 50 for the thought of being stuck with it, that silver will go back down to 25 and it won't go over 50. Well, no, that's not what's going to happen this time because brics will push the gold price up because they're going to go to a gold standard and gold demand will be huge, and they'll have to raise the price to print gold-backed currency and bricks and everything else. Bobby's probably busy with at the gym or something. Yeah, he wasn't on yesterday either. He was on Friday. It's funny. He goes, "Where's Luke? Where's Luke?" Bobby watches. Bobby, he goes, "Oh, I watched yesterday's if he misses it." He likes the info, but yeah, I'm really shocked how many people watch versus how many people watch these other idiots. They'll get like 2,000 and I get 100, and I'm like, my 100 people are getting a lot more than the 2,000 who watch Maloney or Peter Schiff or some of those clowns. But they don't know. See, what they do is they made off you. So when you ask Madoff, how do you make money? What did he say? Well, I'm not going to tell you. If I have to tell you, then I'm going to give your money back. So you never asked Madoff how he made money. It was a Ponzi scheme. But does Peter Schiff or Andy Scheckman or Rick Rude or any of these guys really explain anything? They'll talk about people are buying, the demand for gold, so the price should go up. And they totally don't understand COMEX and BRICS. COMEX controls the price. It doesn't matter how much is bought until COMEX gets drained. And COMEX, BRICS coming out of the gold-backed currency will raise the price because they need it at 10,000 an ounce to do a gold-backed currency. And the U.S. go to war with China and Russia like they could with Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi. They basically just went to war to stop the gold-backed currencies. So because then it would show how weak the dollar is and the dollar would go out. And they need the dollar because they think they're wealthy with the Ponzi scheme dollar. And that's such bullshit. So in this case, they're not getting it at all. So if they would have to explain COMEX or inflation or BRICS, they can't do it. Or at least they don't. They might mention BRICS and they might mention COMEX, but they don't understand how COMEX price fixes everything with the derivative contracts. That's the key to the price, is the derivative contracts keep the price low. So we know that it's got nothing to do. Me and Greg John and you and Bobby and Luke could go buy 1,000 ounces of gold each and 5,000 ounces of silver each, and it wouldn't move the price at all. The price is moved by derivatives, thanks to J.P. Morgan and the J.P. Morgan and the what am I thinking? J.P. Morgan and the Madoff singers or the Madoff dancers who control the price. They send a derivative that says, we just sold 1 million ounces of gold and not 1 ounce was sold. How the fuck they get away with that? How the fuck but that's what Russia and China realizes. It's bullshit. And they're playing the game now saying, okay, we're done with this. Anytime you lower that price, we're buying it at that cheap price, because it's not the real price, because it's not, the real price can only be, okay, how much do I get for this Mahomes card? And somebody gives me $5,000. That's your real price, is now set at $5,000. And then there's another auction and it's $5,000, and another, okay, this card's worth $5,000. That's the only way you get a price, not by doing derivatives where they sell, 100,000 fake ounces that they're not even. I'm selling 100,000 ounces of paper gold. What is that? And nobody buys it, and it doesn't get settled, and it lowered the price. What the fuck is that? Who's allowing that? You got to be kidding me. So the Russians and the Chinese are, okay, that's enough of this. That's why it's breaking. And they're buying, they have the money to buy thousands of ounces. And that's what they're doing. And that will destroy COMEX, because when they have enough and they start doing the gold-backed currency, which is coming out, I think we'll know May for I hate this. I think this is the left side and this is the right. And so they're going to come out with the gold backed currency, and it basically blows up the derivatives. So once they do that, COMEX won't be able to fight it because their price, China and Russia set their price at $10,000 an ounce. What are you going to do, COMEX? Sell it for $2,000? And they're selling it for 10 grand. So everybody's going to buy from you, and then they're all going to go and sell it at the brics for 10 grand. So no, they can't keep it. So it's getting crushed, but these people don't know. They can't explain it to you. So this Yankee Doodle Dandy goes, well, yeah, but COMEX will work back to 25. And you're saying, no, they won't, because they won't be able to control it anymore. But he doesn't understand economics or brics, or that they won't be able to. And that's really the problem. And I'm thinking to myself, but you buy gold at 2,000 an ounce, what's the difference? Well, we can't buy silver at 50. Why not? If you're all sold out, see, he has a lot of inventory. So he doesn't really want to buy anymore. He wants to sell his inventory at 50. Well, when it hits 30 and 35 and 40, you'll have sold out of all yours and you'll have all this money. And then to not buy it at 50 for fear it going back to 25, and not having the intelligence to know it's going to 1,000. See, that's where he's blind. It's only been 50 twice, and this and this and this. And again, it's always been tied to COMEX. And as you lose COMEX, you lose the 50. And then it becomes $2,000, 1,000 an ounce to 2,000 an ounce. Then you wish you would have bought it at 50, because you're not gonna find it at 2,000. You're gonna pay 2,000 and then you're fucked. But is there a cap? I don't know. People buy Microsoft stock at 150. Is that going up? No, but they buy it. So what's going to happen when the stock market crashes? Everybody's going to lose because they bought it and they can't sell it. So at least in gold and silver, you don't have to worry about that. You bought it. You don't need to sell it. And the price is going to go up. The price can't go down, especially on gold. Silver, it's at 25. Where's it going? Now, let's say it goes to 50. I would just hold it. I'm not going to sell mine at 50. But it's not going to go back to 20. Once it moves, it's not coming down, because this is brics pricing it, not some COMEX bullshit where they can just print the derivatives to keep the price down, because the government doesn't want you to know that the dollar's worthless. So anyway, that's really the problem with these other guys to listen to, is to know they don't know what they're talking about. So that's why you got to be careful. I mean, so if you listen to Lena Petrova, what is she telling you? Does she tell you, do you learn from her? Is there something she tells you that I don't, that you're like, well, she says this and you don't? And, anything you want me to explain that she tells you, I'll be happy to. But she's not in our league. I guarantee you that. She's a CPA. I guarantee you that she's not close to having the scope of understanding that I do. Neither are any of the guys. The only one that can finally compete with me is Egon. Mark McGuire can't, neither can Alligator. I am over their level by a long shot. That might be why they're scared to have me on. I'll show them up. But Mark McGuire has the stupidest guest. The guest he had on was so stupid. Some silver guy who wrote a book on silver. It's like, oh, okay, that's great. I do a fucking 3-hour class on silver every fucking day, writing a book. Writing a book gives you an alibi. We'll go back to Basic Instinct. I love that. So if you wrote the book and then you killed somebody, then you wouldn't be the subject because you wrote the book. Yeah, you should try to go on a show. Well, I've emailed the Alligator and Mark McGuire and a few others this Australian show. I said, I'll be happy to be a guest, but they don't respond. They don't understand me. I'm so far over their heads. They see Teaser King, they think, oh, he handicaps football games. What's he know about economics? Even though I'm an Austrian economist. So I know more about economics than football, but I just, didn't do basically it just grew from the football. Was seeing what's going on. I wanted to interject economics also, which is what I do. But yeah, the football's over now, so we can talk draft and strategies like we do. But yeah, I mean, I would go on a show if they had one, but to me, this is my show, my class. And so all I can do is teach here. And, I see about 100 views. And then I know, like you and Bobby, talk to your friends. So it's about 500 people hear about me. And then if they're smart enough, they would listen and understand, and then they'd be protected. The bottom line I do here is to protect you. You've got to understand gold and silver are your only outs. I was watching this movie, The Other People's Money, with Danny DeVito, and why Gregory Peck was in it, I don't know. I watch him in The Guns of Navarone, and then you watch him there and you go, why the fuck did you take this role? But so Danny DeVito goes, the guy's basically, the company's basically, what's the word? No longer necessary. So they went from wire and fiber to something else, right? And whatever the new wire was, right? So they went from the old wire and cable to thermal optics or whatever. And so they're running the company into the ground because they're still doing the wire and cable list. So they're doing this proxy fight because Danny DeVito says, I can get a $25 company for $10. So I'm buying the stock and I'm going to sell the company because it's worth $25 and I'm paying $10 for it. So he's looking at book value, and the book value was less than the stock, was more than the stock price. So you buy it. I mean, that's all it was. And so near the end, he does the speech, and Gregory Peck says, well, this way we'll all have jobs. No, you won't, because you won't be in business. The fiber optic business will kill your wire business. And so Danny DeVito does the speech. He says, I'm not your best friend. I'm your only friend. I'm here to make you money by selling the company. I'll sell the company and the stock will go up to $25 and you'll make money. And then you can get out. And he says, and then you can go to a different company and, God forbid, make money on your stocks. But he says, I'm your only friend. Everybody painted him as the enemy. He wants to take over. But all the stockholders' value of the stock's going to go up because he's going to sell the company and make $25 to $50 a share, the $10 a share at. So that's what he's saying. I'm your only friend. That's what I'm saying. I'm not your friend. I'm your only friend. Like, you either go into gold and silver or you die. There is no other option here. You can't go into stocks, bonds, or banks. You got to stay out of the Titanic and all the Ponzi schemes of the banks and Wall Street. You've got to stay out of that. That will kill you if you're in there. So all your money in the bank, all the CDs and the real estate trust and the stocks and the bonds, all that shit you got to get out of because it's priced in dollars. And they've printed it and printed it and printed it to death. So that's the first concept. Second concept is they can't do that with gold. They print gold on the derivatives to inflate it to keep the price down. Funny how they do digital, they do derivatives to keep the price of gold and silver down. But when they do it with the dollar, then it's okay. Well, we print the dollar to zero. They don't show you that part of the equation. And so because they can't inflate the gold and it is money, it's the only place you can survive. So with that, it's a very simple concept. But if you're listening to these other idiots, then just buy gold, but you don't even understand it, and then you'll sell it too cheaply, or you won't buy it, or you wait for it to go down. Oh, I'll wait till 1900 to buy it. It ain't never going to hit 1900. It just went down to 1990. Now it's back at 2015. So again, you've got to understand, and they're salesmen, so you got to take them with a grain of salt. So I'm telling you, you listen to me and you listen to Egon and some alligator, but you got to be smart enough to understand alligator, when to listen and when to say he's not getting it. Because he keeps saying it's not the gold going up, it's the dollar going down. And I'm like, no, the dollar's gone down. It is the gold going up because of the derivative bullshit paper game. That's why gold will also go up, is because of its being price fixed. And I don't think they argue. I think alligator's smart enough to realize the price fixing, as does Egon. Some of these people, like this Lynette, she was clueless on price fixing. She's like, what are you doing? Why is she a guest? Who says she's any good? I don't get why they think she's good. Do they want to have a woman on to get the woman audience? I don't know. But anyway, it's just ridiculous. TK, you should do some basketball bets for the show, but I don't really like basketball anymore since Magic and Bird and Isaiah left, but it's just too much. Football is good. I can focus on it, and I know what I'm looking for. Basketball brings in different variables. It brings in back-to-back nights, 3 games in 4 days. Still got to watch the injuries. Now that you got to watch when the guys tank and they're tired, they're going to sit the game out. Well, imagine betting, Golden State, and then Stephen Curry sits out because he's tired. He's not injured, but I'm gonna take the game off, and you've got $1,000 bet on Golden State. I mean, so it's too much fixed. The refs are fixed. The players are terrible. I really don't. I don't know. I'm not getting into it. I'm not watching it. It's something you have to have the time and energy. Does my gut instincts work here? Does my variables work? Can I look at offense and defense? I don't have a quarterback. I don't have a defense. I don't have a coach. Now it becomes who's got Mahomes. So Mahomes is about Stephen Curry or one of these other guy. Who's the best player in the league? I don't know. So who do I bet on? I know the Pistons suck, but I don't have really the desire. I could pick it, but I'd have to figure out the variables, which I don't. I'm more concerned with economics now than I am with basketball. So I'm not going to waste my time with it. If you want to do it, you know what variables that we use in football to use. That's what today's show's on. So I would then gut instinct it. And when you see when the variables line up, make your bet. Baseball, I can do it quickly because I'm just looking at ERA. So I understand the variables there. But they even fuck you with this 5 innings shit. Oh, well, after 5, Verlander's coming out. Well, wait, I bet Verlander. Now they even have bets for 5 innings. What the fuck is that? It's all screwed up. And then you guys are all enthralled with live betting, which to me sounds like the stupidest thing in the world, unless what Bobby did where the Niners go up 10-0 and you love the Chiefs, then that would have been live betting. I could have done that. Would have been the time to bet it, as I know KC's going to win and they're down 10-0 and you can get 325. Then that's about the only time I would do it. If KC got up 10-0, what would you do for live betting? Are you going to bet Frisco because they're getting 320? and lose. I mean, we've determined the bet on Mahomes, so I bet the game early. So I don't really like the live betting. I think it's stupid. I think it's just another scam to get you to bet more. All they're trying to do with all these props and everything is to get more bets out of you. And the odds suck, and you have no idea if it's a good bet or not a good bet. You think you know, but you don't have a clue how many rushing yards Franco Harris got. How many catches were Jerry Rice got? I mean, you have no idea. Depends on the game. If he gets hurt, do they get far behind? Let's say they run the kickoff back and score. Now they're up 21-0. Jerry Rice ain't going to get any yards. But if they're down 21-0, he's going to get 300 yards. So again, you don't know that going into the game. That's why it's stupid. You know what the game should be, but that's it. But anyway, so that's why you got to be careful listening to these other people with economics, because you don't know enough about economics to know if they're good or bad. I do. That's why I tell you, don't listen to them. Listen to this. Listen to me. Listen to Alligator. Listen to Egon. Otherwise, don't waste your time with Lena Pina and Yankee Doodle Dandy and all these guys. They are morons. They just talk about it because they hear a word and they think they know it. They're not close to knowing it. I had 4 Austrian economic classes, and one of them we killed Keynes in. I got frustrated with the teacher going, well, we know Keynes doesn't work. Why do we got to talk about it? Let's just keep talking more Austrian because there's really, all I can do is when I see it or when I hear somebody like Lynette, and I went on with her show yesterday and just, so what the fuck's she talking about? She doesn't know what hyperinflation velocity is. Doesn't know, it doesn't have a meaning. Then there's other guys doing cost pull and whatever inflation, missing the point. Inflation's printing the money. And the cost, basically what he was talking about, which has no bearing on inflation, was they're printing it, but the prices haven't gone up yet, or prices have gone up faster. That's cost pull and demand push, right? It's that's it. It's just it's how does the print faster than the printing? That's hyperinflation. But hyperinflation is still when the people get hyper. That is not what's happening. And then they'll come out with, well, then when you listen to these shows, you go, what the fuck are they talking about? I hated economics in school. I think I got a D. Well, because you took Keynesian economics. Take Austrian economics, you would remember this. I guarantee you remember just about everything I tell you, because I talk to you not in riddles, not in graphs. I talk to you same way I talk to you about football, poker, girls, or anything else. And because I talk to you like that, you understand it. And then that. But if I did Keynesian economics and said, well, let's look at the supply demand line, and where they cross is the optimal this, and this is this and this, and I come up with a bunch of names that nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about, I'd hate it too because it was boring. I took it at Oakland University, and I think I got a D also in college in Keynesian economics. I didn't know what this guy was talking about. Then I went for my master's program at a different school, and they taught Austrian economics. I got all A's. I made the dean's list. I even wrote my thesis on how the trade cycle affects the stock market. Well, that wasn't in my Keynesian economics. But here are the guys talking about the trade cycle. Well, the Fed fucks with the interest rates, and then I looked at stocks. And so when the interest rates went up, I could see what stocks went up and down. And when the interest rates went down, I could see what stocks were good. And basically the high interest rate stocks you stay out of now because the interest rates are up, the costs are up. And as it's very simple, as the costs go up, unemployment goes up, profit goes down, and prices go up, and then we're all fucked. So that's where we're at. And then the inflation is ruining the money. Okay, that's simple, but not explained. Nobody explains that to you. They go, it's prices. and they're all full of shit. Yeah, thank you. I try to be easy to understand. Well, I'm your teacher now, so you can only, to be stoic, you can only do what you can control now. So when I'm waiting for Daria for X, Y, or Z, I can only say, I love you, here I am. And then I can't control the response or that, but I'm going off of gut instinct that she loves me back because she says it. So I can only say, I love you. And then I get an I love you back. And then my gut instinct says, she texts me every day. And then I go 3 days, 4 days without a text. I'm like losing. Then I start, where is she? Is she okay? Is she with somebody else? What's she doing that she can't take 30 seconds to text me? Right. And that's really what it is. She just showed me she made dinner and now she's doing homework with her daughter. She has hard classes in physics and chemistry. I couldn't help her. Well, even if it was English, I couldn't help her, but Russian, I couldn't. But anyway, so that's really what it is. It's how you're talked to. That, see, as the teacher, I learned this back with my daughter's. I was coaching my daughter's fast pitch softball team. Well, first slow pitch, first my youngest one, like first grade and second grade. My oldest one was fifth and sixth grade. She's 4 years older. And so I'm coaching my youngest daughter. I was like an assistant coach. And the girls couldn't, they'd throw it like a girl. Then I'd have a girl who could throw it like a guy and see how they hit. Ball, not hers. I can't say, well, I taught her and she just didn't listen and learn. It's my fault because I then have to come up with a learning solution that she can understand, that she can then hit the ball. So I'm not doing my job till she different methods. I'm a visual learner, not if I read, my mind's too fast. I read all over the place. That's why I prefer to talk on the show because I can be quick. And that's why I go from 4 or 5 different subjects because I'm basically very, very fast. But if I had to read it, it would be very difficult. That's why I can't write a book, but I can talk a book. So again, keep that in mind. So you've got to understand it, or I didn't do a good job. So I keep this at a very low level as far as teaching, but what I'm teaching is a very high level. I'm teaching inflation, which is a master's point. That's why this is a master's class. This is read out of my notes in my master's program at a very good business school. But I'm teaching it at a very low level so you can understand a very high level of what I'm teaching you. And when I'm listening, Mark McGuire can't do that. God knows what he's talking about with the ring fence and the casino and chips. And what are you talking about, Mark? And then, see, he doesn't get how to teach. Alligator, a little bit, but he rumbles on. Egon's pretty good at it. But then like Andy Scheckman just goes off on a tangent, doesn't really mean anything. He just says, well, demand's up, people are buying, and you should buy gold. Well, yeah, because you're selling it. You're in a store. Of course you're going to say that. You're right, but you don't know how to explain it, or inflation. You can't explain inflation. And then you say, explain it. You just heard some terms. Like you might know laissez-faire economics or invisible hand doesn't mean you're an Austrian economist. Just because you understand, and the invisible hand is stay out